requests and responses. When we access a website, your browser will need to make requests to a web server for assets such as HTML, images, and download the responses. Before that, you need to tell the browser specifically how and where to access these resources. This is where the URLs will help. Uniform Resource Locator. If you've used the internet, you've used a URL. A URL is predominantly an instruction on how to access a resource on the internet. So it's basically a location, an exact location. The below image shows what a URL looks like. Oh, the meat timer. No. Let's make this for 35 minutes. All right. So let's go through this again. But before that, okay. The below image shows what the URL looks like with all of its features. It does not use all features in every request. Okay, let's open this. It's too bad that it's okay. Maybe on a white background it's better for certain parts of the URL. So we have the HTTP scheme or protocol, but also you will see 3 symbols, colon and 2 forward slashes. These are part of the scheme. Then we have a user colon password, which is the user, at tryhackme.com, which is the host or the domain, colon at port 80 forward slash. Here is basically the path. You see the path, view room, question mark, ideal1, which is the query string, and then we have a hashtag task3, which is a fragment. Here we have the little breakdown. Scheme, these instructions on what protocol to use for accessing the resource, such as HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, and so on. User. Some services require authentication to log in. You can put a username and a password in the URL to log in. Host, the domain name of or the IP of the server you wish to access. The port, 80 in this case, that you are going to connect to, usually 80 for HTTP. And 443 for HTTPS, but this can be hosted on many ports, on any port or between 1 and the entire range. Path, the file name or the location of the resource you are trying to access. The query string, extra bits of information that can be sent to the request path. For example, /blog ID1 would tell the blog path that you wish to receive the blog article with the ID of 1, the first article. Fragment 1. This is a reference to a location on the actual path requested. This is commonly used for pages with long content and can have a certain part of a page directly linked to it. So it is it is viable to use. Is viable to the user as soon as they access the page. Making a request. It's possible to make a request to a web server with just one click. Get http.1. Right, let's see. We have the request method, get. We have the HTTP protocol version 1.1. The page being requested. Okay. But for a much richer web experience, we'll need to send other data as well. This other data is sending what is called headers, where headers contain extra information to give to the web server you're communicating with, but we'll go more on this in the header task. We have an example here. As you see, the method, we see the HTTP version, we have the host, header, user agent header, and refer agent header. To break down each line of this request, like line 1, this line is sending the get method, more on this in the HTTP methods task, request to home page with this / and telling the web server we are using HTTP protocol version 1.1. We tell the web server we want to visit tryhackme.com. We tell the web server we are using the Firefox version 87 browser. We are telling the web server that the web page that we referred us to this one is tryhackme.com. Line 5, which is basically non-existent, is this one below. Requests always end with a blank line 5, which is a blank one in our case. HTTP requests always end with a blank line to inform the web server that the request has finished. Example response. So this is the request. We make a request and the response from the server is the following. HTTP 101.200 OK, server date, content type, content length, and a little bit of HTML codes. To break down each line of the response. Line 1, HTTP 101.200 OK. HTTP 101 is the version of the HTTP protocol the server is using, and then followed by the HTTP status code, in this case 200 OK, which tells us the request has completed successful. The request has completed successfully. Line 2, server, the following, tells us the web server software and version, which is good information for us. Line 3 is the date, time, the current date, time, and time zone of the web server. Line 4, the content type header, tells the client what sort of information is going to be sent, such as HTML, image, videos, PDFs, Excel, XMLs, so on. Content length, line number 6. Line number 5, content length. Line number 5, content length tells the client how long the response is. This way, we can confirm no data is missing. Line 6 is the blank one. HTTP response contains a blank line to confirm the end of the HTTP response. We can see it here. The new line, blank line, whatever. Line 7 and 14. The information that has been requested in the instance, the homepage. In this instance is the homepage. Answer the questions below. What HTTP protocol is being used in the above example? HTTP 1.1. HTTP 1.1. What response header tells the browser how much data to expect? Content length. Okay, let's get out of here. We've made too much noise in this library.